hot, hot, hot. And so I often wonder, well, where should I begin? And the lack thereof.
Today's podcast is brought to you by StrongHeartAcademy.com, where no heart is no victory. We are also brought to you by BJJ To Go. If you want to build your game and learn jiu-jitsu, go to bjjtogo.com. Third thing we're brought to you by is Rat Bat. You got rats? Want to kill bats? Kill them with a rat bat. Fourth thing we're brought to you by is hot dog flavored water ingredients. If you want to add it to your smoothie, hot dog flavor ingredient. What's your name?
Amber.
Amber. Do you want to say your last name or no?
That's all right.
Do you have a nickname?
Nope.
Amber Starchild? Nothing?
Just Amber.
Nothing cool?
Nothing cool.
Okay, so we're doing a series on sobriety and dealing with sobriety and kind of how it all started. And so, where would you like to start? Where do you think it began?
I think, it began really before the actual addiction. So,
Yep.
As a kid, I think I always felt kind of like an outsider or an outcast. And
Why is that?
I just always felt different. Like I wasn't able to like connect with kids my age, or I didn't always like have a big group of friends. And so around like 13, I remember starting to hang out with kids that were like drinking and doing drugs, and it gave me like a sense of community that I felt like I was always lacking, and it made me feel like I was a part of a group. And I think I gravitated towards that like subculture because they were like different and
They're the outside, or
yeah, like I always dressed kind of different, and so they were different. I wanted to be a part of like the kids that were different.
do you feel like drinking helped you loosen up, like to talk to other people, or not really? Just they were doing it, you're doing it, so we kind of have a kinship. We're doing the same type of things.
I think it definitely helped me come out of my shell and be able to talk to people, because I was really shy growing up. I was super quiet in school, and when I would drink or do drugs and go to parties, I was able to talk to people. So after that, it just kind of progressed. And
that was in junior high or high school?
In junior high.
Junior high, okay.
And the first time I tried opiates, I was 15, and it was given to me by somebody who was a parent figure at the time. And after that, it just kind of spiraled.
Fast.
It was more progressive. It wasn't, I guess, I experimented with a lot of different substances pretty quickly. Anything that I could try, I wanted to try.
Were you doing like anything that, like, raves or like parties, or what was it that, or was it on your own, or was it like with friends, like we're all gonna try this whatever out?
Yeah, so a lot of like.
So I have friends that used to go to parties, and then that was part of the deal. Like, we're gonna go to this rave, or everyone does like EMD or whatever.
Yeah,
electronic. Yeah, so they would do ecstasy or even acid or shrooms,
right,
or something psychedelic, and then that would help them or whatever. That felt like it enhanced their thing, and then it was like almost like that's part of the thing that you have to do. Like you go, if you're with us and you're doing this thing, then we're all gonna do this,
right? I definitely got into like an EDM music scene, so I was out partying pretty late, doing those type of substances, going to like house parties, using substances, as well as using substances before or after school, and then graduated high school. Before I graduated, I did end up going to a mental health and chemical dependency facility, following an arrest at my house.
Was it a forced, or
it was
like a state forced, or like your parents were like, hey, you gotta...
I got into a domestic dispute with my stepfather at the time, and was arrested. After the arrest, the state ended up dropping the arrest charges and bring me into the facility.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was forced. After that, went to ASU, moved up to
How
Arizona.
long were you in there for? Was it a
About-
place that you had to stay at, or?
Yeah. So it was 3 weeks. The incident was pretty tough at the time. They, like strap you down. If you become upset in the facility, you're thrown in like a padded room, so you don't have a lot of autonomy or any autonomy during like that experience.
Because you're being watched, you mean, or?
Yeah, because you're under 24-hour watch, and if you express any kind of like anger or emotion, they'll just like throw you in a padded room. They threaten to some kind of shot, to like put you asleep or to calm you down.
Trazodone,
Yeah. So that's hard, at a young age.
How old were you?
17. Yeah.
Do they does everyone have to wear the same clothes, or you could wear your own clothes?
Wear your own clothes, but nothing with drawstrings. They had certain specifications
Like they're worried about hurting yourself, or yeah.
Right, yeah. At the time, it was difficult because there was a lot of stuff going on in my home that made it hard to be in there. Especially with the domestic dispute in my home
With your stepdad?
with my stepfather, and the relationship.
Was he around a lot? Like, was he a new stepfather, or was he your stepfather for quite a while?
I think he married my mother when I was like 11.
Okay, so like 6 years.
Yeah.
Decent amount of time. It's not like brand new
No.
in the house or something.
Definitely pretty turbulent relationship between us, him and my sister. The relationship with me and my mom was also very unstable and rocky.
Your relationship with your mom, or
really
everyone
everybody's
was just,
relationship.
Yeah, it was just wild, huh?
Yeah, so there was just a lot of family stuff going on at the time that made it really difficult. My parents not really hearing me out or what was really going on as far as, some of the substances that were being given to me.
By family members?
Right. So that was extremely confusing and difficult.
What substances were you being given?
Alcohol, mostly, and then opiates. So, yeah.
So, I mean, do you feel did that affect your safety or trust of like the people that are supposed to be taking care of you? Or I don't know, I'm trying to think of like my parents were like super strict, and there was like no alcohol in the house at all. There wasn't even alcohol, like my parents didn't drink at all. And I'm just trying to think if like they were giving me something that I felt like I knew it, like maybe I wanted it, but I also knew that could be dangerous at the same time. I had friends, like, we'd go to their house, and their parents would be cool with whatever you wanted to do at their house. And I always remember thinking, like, this sucks that your parents allow you to do this, actually, because they're not really protecting you. Like, I always felt like, even though it was fun to go to the cool parents' house, I also felt like, it sucks that your parents aren't looking after you. Like, they're not really looking at, like, this could be dangerous,
Yeah, like, I agree.
I don't know.
It wasn't like that in my house because my mom wasn't aware of it. So it was more like in secret.
Okay.
And so, like,
that was your stepdad then?
Right.
Okay.
And my sister wasn't super aware of it either, and she didn't do any partying. And she hung out with people that partied, but she didn't do those kind of things. And so it was like this secret between us, and
just you and your stepdad.
Right. And it was at first it was like cool because I can get alcohol and I can bring it to parties, and now I'm the one who's like providing this, and I'm the cool one.
Yeah.
And when you're constantly seeking approval from people,
when you're that young, like, you just want to be a part of something.
Right.
I think actually everyone wants to be a part of something.
For sure.
Even when you're an introverted person, you want to be a part of something.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't be as
deep down, for sure.
Yeah, and at that age, like you're or I was so self-conscious of myself and so image conscious of myself that you really want to make sure that you're part of something
Right.
and that people respect you and that they want you a part of something too. And yeah, I totally get that. And then you're the one supplying all the fun stuff.
Right.
You're the cool one. Like, oh, sweet, Amber's going to come through. Like, the party's not going to happen unless Amber brings, the whatever.
Yeah. I think that, influenced it a lot, that, allowed it to continue longer than it should have. So after all that, I, made my mom and sister aware what was going on. They ended up getting divorced while I was in the mental health facility. So when I'd gotten back home, he wasn't there anymore. I did feel like my mom kind of...
This is your mom's second husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom's second husband. I do feel like my mom was a little resentful of me, I guess, after that. Like, I had caused their divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, going to ASU, moving to Arizona from Illinois.
You guys were in Illinois?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in Illinois up until I was 18. Went to school and...
You're younger than your sister, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years. Yeah, Brittany's 2 years older than me.
Did she come out here first, or you come out here first?
I came out here first in 2009.
Followers. Your family's just a bunch of followers.
I know. No, I'm so happy they're out here. But yeah, like, it just got, again, worse. I first tried heroin when I was 18 at ASU.
What was the form of it?
Like the first time I had tried it.
Yeah, when you were trying, were you... Usually people that... I know people that use heroin too. They usually start with pills.
Yeah.
And then they work their way to... It's cheaper to just use heroin.
Right.
And then now that the pills are harder to get to because they were easy, now they're hard.
Yeah.
The heroin's easier to get to. And then so usually some of them smoke it, then they do, and then
Right.
they end up shooting it eventually.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, like, in the beginning, was it
was
pills first, or what were you?
For sure, it was pills. First, like any opiate pills,
Like oxys and stuff like that.
right, or Percocets, and then smoking it. I didn't continue to use heroin after that too much. I still partied with other substances, but I was in school.
Who introduced you to that? Just people that you were hanging out with, or?
Yeah, a friend.
You don't have to say a name.
No. A friend that was, going to ASU and kind of in like the same party group, but, they just, do you want to try this? And I was all for it versus,
So you weren't hesitant at all?
No. I think there was points where I was so curious too, and I wanted to like try the next thing. So after that, I didn't do it too much. Still pretty focused on school. Still was maintaining my grades, despite all the partying. Then I graduated and I got a little heavier into pills again. And then I was
graduated with associates or
bachelor's? Yeah.
Bachelor's in what?
Sociology. Not super useful.
It's kind of funny though that you have a degree in sociology, and then all this has to do with kind of sociology.
Yeah.
Psychology too, but like it's a group dynamic and what's going on with the group dynamic. And
yeah, it's funny because it definitely seems like it's an epidemic that affects a big part of society. So yeah, I've always been interested in the way society works and everything. But yeah, I met somebody who was using heroin actually through a gym that I was working out at, and they were in a coaching position, and
Like their trainer or?
they were like a Muay Thai coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They had gotten into a accident, like car or motorcycle
Oh,
accident,
okay.
was using pills.
Oh,
and
so yeah, then
the same
yeah.
the same
There's
thing.
so many people that's like they get injured and then
Yes.
the doctors were just like shoveling them
Oh,
on
for
them.
sure.
And I remember when I got hurt with my shoulder injury, they were trying to give me stuff, but I feel fortunate that like pills make me sick. Like I
Yeah.
actually can't take them. Like, and I've never felt that they ever helped me with pain. Honestly, like they made me drowsy, but I was like, I'm just drowsy in pain.
Right.
Like if I can sleep, sometimes it would help me sleep. Like okay, I can sleep, and then I won't
Yeah.
feel pain if I'm sleeping. But it didn't seem to work for me, so I never got in. I was like, I threw them away. Usually, I just threw them away. I'm like, I don't need these. I don't want them. I don't.
So I just think it's so unnecessary, you
Yeah.
know. They give it for everything, anything that hurts, you know,
Yeah.
and they don't really explain to you the how addictive it
How
really
addicted
can
it-
be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so
So he was using heroin. And
Right.
you were dating him at the time?
yeah,
or-
we got into a relationship, and he, you know, shot me up for the first time, which I was a little hesitant about.
So before you were smoking it, or
Yeah, I started smoking it. He was already shooting it, and you know, I was smoking it for maybe like a month or two until he wanted, you know, to introduce me to this other method of doing it. Yeah.
And you felt like there was a difference when you did it that way, or
Yeah, definitely a
just
difference.
a stronger feeling? to it?
Everything kind of just like hit the fan after that, you know, like my job, my friends, my family, pretty much all the things that kind of kept me anchored and at bay without, you know, being what I thought a complete drug addict was. All those things just started to fall away, and I became your typical like drug addict, which in my head I thought I was different, which I wasn't. But in my head I thought I had it together because I still had a job and I functioned pretty well, I thought. So
it's funny. I was talking to a guy at my church that's an older guy, and you would never have thought that he was a drug addict. And he was like, and he's helped me he works, I don't want to say his name, but he's probably in his 60s or 70s, even maybe late 60s. And he was like, I had a super heroin problem. And he's like, but I never affected my job or anything. He's like, I had a plan, and I always had a plan. And like, as long as I can pay my bills, and then whatever money I have left over, that was for heroin. And as long as I did that, and my family was okay, but it just gets out. You can't juggle it. You know, you feel like, I think, I'm saying like I know what I'm talking about, but I think you get this feeling in your mind like, well, I'm paying my bills, and then it just it just takes over. Exactly. And then you're just like, and then all the people I've talked to too, especially heroin, is like, that's the only thing in the world. Like there's literally nothing in the world other than heroin.
Yeah, that became my like hobby, was to do drugs.
Yeah.
It's, you know, all the things I enjoyed doing, I didn't enjoy as much as I liked doing heroin. So once you stop doing all the things you love and hanging out with, you know, your friends and family, your whole world becomes your dealers and the people you get high with. So now you become even more engrossed in not only the drug, but also the people and places and things surrounding it.
And the ways of getting the money to get it to you.
Right. You know, and in my mind, I still was functioning because my bills were paid. I never was homeless. I never missed a car payment. You know, I was always very responsible. And looking back on it, it's like, if I was able to keep it together while doing heroin, I had so much potential sober, you know, to do really good things. And it was just like wasted, you know, by trying to juggle drugs and a life.
Like you're an old lady. I mean, it's
that's true.
You're still pretty young. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
How many years were you had a heroin addiction?
So, as far as heroin went, I think it was like 3 years, 2.5 years of like shooting heroin.
2.5 years.
Yeah, I found meth, I think, in the last year that I was using, or year and a half.
And you were using that to get off of heroin or just both?
I used it in conjunction to get off, to stay awake. Yeah.
And then who introduced you to that? Was that your boyfriend also, or
That was like a new relationship who I met through
a different boyfriend? Then?
Yeah.
So you broke up with the other one, and then, or whatever happened,
Yes.
just didn't work out, and then you met a different boyfriend that also, but just had a meth habit.
And a heroin habit as well.
Oh, he had a heroin habit.
Yeah.
And that was like from the same group of people, like you were just.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, they kind of ran in the same circle, I guess. I wouldn't say like we were all friends, because that's not the right word, but yeah, just in the same circle.
And then when you were, was that a progression thing too, or was it just like all in?
That
you can take meth intravenously too, right? Like, I mean,
yes.
I think most people start smoking it, but then same thing, or snorting it, and then eventually it leads to just shooting it.
I think it progressed quicker because I was already,
you were already shooting
using
heroin,
IV heroin, so
yeah.
it just kind of was like another way to consume something. At that point, I also didn't care about my life, so I guess it didn't matter.
Do you feel like you didn't have value in your life, or you didn't feel like anyone cared about you, or you just didn't care about anything? Like nihilism, caring about nothing.
Yeah, it was kind of like I had lost everything I cared about, so my relationship with my family was pretty bad, so I didn't feel like they cared about me. I didn't care about myself. All the relationships as far as like dating went were like either super abusive or drug fueled, and so like it was just a lot of negativity, and I started to become suicidal, and so it was like just so much carelessness with using, because I wasn't really worried about like what would happen the next day or if I would wake up the next day. So
you weren't even like, hey, this is too much. Like this amount could kill me. You didn't care at that point. You're just like, whatever.
Yeah, I think there was times I would almost hope that it would like I would accidentally overdose or like, I never wanted to actually take my life, because, I'd always think about the consequences, but it would always be like, well, if it happens, like, oh, well. So when the thoughts of suicide got worse, I checked myself into detox. Yeah.
So that was like kind of the bottom then. Like you're like, hey, this is like, I'm thinking about ending it.
Right.
Or was that like the first bottom?
It's first bottom. There's many bottoms.
Yep.
But that was a pivotal point. I ended up leaving.
Was that a state program, or like you found someone helped you out with a program, or?
I mean, I still had health insurance at the time.
Okay.
I was under 26, so I was still on my mom's like health insurance.
Right.
So I just checked into a hospital, and I ended up checking out pretty quick after like 2 days or 3 days. I couldn't deal with the withdrawals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super painful.
Super painful.
Make you sick and.
And there's something that's just a phone call away to make you feel better.
Yeah.
And I think that's, a big thing.
Yeah. So then what made you go back again?
I ended up going to some like AA and NA meetings, and there was a speaker there, and she was an atheist who had found faith, and I think I was still detoxing at the time, so it was like day 1 or 2 of being out of the actual hospital detox and on my own, and I was sick as hell, and I went into this NA meeting, and she started talking about faith and finding what she believes is God. And she talked about the feeling you get when you're like cooking a meal or you're planting a garden, and you're creating something. You do that with love, and we are creations, regardless if you believe in like the Big Bang, evolution, or intelligent design. We are still created. So we're created with love, because when you create something, you create it with love. And so for some reason that just really resonated with me more than anything I'd ever heard, because I was atheist, and didn't believe in anything. And so
Did you feel like you weren't loved at that point then, in your life? Like you weren't created with love?
yeah, I guess I didn't really like,
Not just God, but I mean in general. Like you just weren't loved. Like nobody gave you real love.
I think I had such a hard time growing up that like I had a lot
The
of
family dynamic was not as secure, or did you feel like that affected the feeling of it? 'Cause
yeah.
I don't know, the way you said it, it strikes me as like you feel like a creator made it with love, right? And you do these
Right.
things with love, and you were created. And did you feel like you were just not? You didn't understand that you were loved,
Yeah, I think, I hate
or
to hate,
I don't want to put. I'm really worried about putting
No, you're
words in
fine.
people's mouths, so I just want to make sure I just understand what you mean.
I think like, I mean, I hate to say that I didn't feel loved as a kid, but I didn't. And the truth is, my parents do love me.
Yeah.
They just had their own difficulties, and
Yeah.
now as an adult, I can see that they're not perfect.
Yep.
And being a parent, I'm sure, is hard. I'm not a parent, so I can't really say,
It's
but
so
it
hard.
seems hard. I have friends that are parents, so
Yeah.
it seems like it's super tough. But yeah, I think with the family dynamic, I didn't feel loved by them. So when the speaker was talking, and she just made metaphors with like, a garden or cooking. I don't know why it like just resonated with me, but it did. And she also read Emmett Fox's Sermon on the Mount, and that also spoke to me.
Emmett Fox, a book about the Sermon on the
Yeah,
Mount?
he does like an interpretation
Okay.
of it, and something about it, that moment, like
You read it yourself?
yeah, I've read parts of it. She was reading parts of it, and it really stuck with me. And so I had this like overcoming feeling that I like can't put in words, but it felt like God was in the room. And I swear this lady looked like an angel. I like still really like, remember it like perfectly. And yeah, like just this feeling of like overwhelming, like faith that I've never felt before, and of like pure joy, even though I was in like such a bad spot. So that was a pivotal point in my addiction. I did end up going back and using, but I, tried getting sober a bunch of times. And the last run that I had, I was using a lot of methamphetamines and went through like a psychotic break, and I ended up calling my mom and my sister. They ended up sending me back to Illinois to go to rehab, and then
Were they in Illinois at the time, or?
my sister Brittany was in Arizona. My mom was in Illinois. So Brittany took me to her house, and she pretty much gave me an ultimatum, like, I call the cops on you or you go back to Illinois.
Your mom said that? Or
My sister.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm, like, super thankful for her doing that, because at the time I thought it was evil. But
Yeah.
looking back, she was worried that I was dying. I probably looked like I was dying without eating or sleeping.
Yeah. You're tiny. If you're not eating and sleeping, I'm sure you.
I mean,
Would
I
look
was
terrible.
so small, even being like 80 pounds.
Yeah.
And I would say that there were people after me,
Yep.
and all sorts of weird things like that.
Paranoia and all
Yeah,
that.
the paranoia was really bad. The delusions were really bad.
Yep.
The person I was dating went to prison, so they now are serving like 7 years in prison. So even the people that were my friends, people were dying, going to prison, and I was pretty sure I was like next for one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So went to rehab in Illinois, transferred to a rehab in Florida, and after that I never used again. And I think the biggest difference is I had faith, and faith got me through a lot. It got me through like the suicidal thoughts. It got me through like the realization that I have no home, I have no job, and I am now, living back with my mom, and like I've just totally screwed up my life. But I would pray every night. I would pray with like the women in rehab,
Mm-hmm.
and I connected really well with a couple women who had faith, and they talked me through a lot of it and helped me not go back to using. One of them ended up overdosing shortly after she left rehab. But yeah, I don't know. I think that having faith in my life, it is almost because of drug addiction. I don't
That you found faith.
Yeah, I just don't know if I could have found it without addiction, which is, it sucks that some people are so stubborn and they just don't want to believe in anything. They have so much hate in their heart that they need to be broken down so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes God humbles us.
Yeah, for sure.
And my hard times of my life, I think of it now as like a necessity to toughen me up and make me stronger than I was.
Yeah.
And sometimes, resiliency doesn't come from good times, unfortunately. Resiliency comes from hard times. And just like lifting weights, right? Like you get stronger because you're breaking your body down,
and it sucks.
your body, and it sucks, and it's hard, and it makes you stronger. And sometimes I feel like God does that to you. I don't know. I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you if that's biblical or not. But I just feel like sometimes that's the thing, and it says, knock, and I'll answer. And that's the thing too, that it's not like a last try, there's always another try. There's always another try. And even when it feels like it's all over, this is the end, there's still like hope, and there's still a try. And then sometimes asking God just to carry some of this. Yeah. Please carry some of this,
It's interesting you say like knock and I'll answer, because I would have never knocked.
Yep.
I think I have like an ego a lot of times, and
well, everyone does, but yeah.
I would always think like, why would I surrender to this person in the sky? I'm not gonna worship anybody. And I just had this completely like skewed view that like God was on a power trip and I wasn't gonna like succumb to that. Yeah. And that was just so far, and that was just my ego speaking. So definitely having faith has taught me humility and being humble. I mean, I'm still working on all those things right now, but it's helped quite a bit.
One of the things like helps me is that I have kids, and that like, I'm my kid's father, and I don't ask them to worship me, but they have to. I do want them to. They have to respect me. Like, right. And when you break the rules, there are going to be consequences. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. Yeah. I'm not on a power trip, but I know that what you're doing is going to cause more hardship down the line. Right. And if we don't stop it now, it can snowball and get worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's how sin is sometimes too. A little thing turns into a really big thing. Yeah. And it always starts like little small, like it's like, the devil is the king of lies. So it's like a little in your ear, like, it's fine. Right. Just a little bit's fine. And then a little becomes a little more. And then a little bit becomes a little bit more. And then it's like a snowball going down a mountain. You're like, I can't get off this thing. Yeah. I'm stuck in it, and I'm just rolling down the mountain. And so yeah, I just think that being a father and it's said in the Bible so much, like the father,
Right.
helps me understand it a little bit better. And then I had a father, and then, and I knew that, my dad wasn't very, I don't remember being hugged or any of that kind of
Right.
stuff, or even, I don't even think he said he loved me, but I always knew that he did, and I never felt like he didn't. But I understood that, like, and I didn't worship my father, but I understood, like, that feeling, like, oh, what does this guy, like, need why does he need to be worshipped? Why, like, I get that. Like, I understand
Right.
what you mean by that, and it's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of people to get over that. And I know the first thing in AA or NA or CA is that, something higher than yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're doing all these things, you have to realize that I think you're not in control.
Right. Not at all.
And I think some people, it's hard to admit that they're not in control.
Yeah.
And, like, the fact that, like, there's something more powerful than you, and that you're on a ride here, but doesn't mean that you're 100% have control of everything, of all the situations. Right. And I find sometimes it's freer to relinquish the control. And it doesn't mean that, like, oh, I don't do anything, or things will just happen good for me. No, but you're not always control, Even if you do all the right things, the greatest person, bad things still happen, and that to understand that giving up that control to God, sometimes it's hard for people. They want to be the master of their destiny, and I'm the one. But when you're an addict and you've failed multiple times,
yeah,
and then you're relying on yourself, and you realize that you're not reliable, and not just you, but I mean anybody.
Oh, for sure, me and every other addict out there.
Not just addicts, just people in general. Like, we make mistakes. I love my children, but I've screwed up before.
For sure.
For sure. Like, I've said things I shouldn't have said to my kids before, out of anger and things like that. And, so I feel like that first step is it should be the first step.
Yeah.
Look, you failed because you're relying on yourself, and you fail because you're not bigger than yourself, and there's something bigger than yourself.
I think
so. Admit that first, and I feel like that's the first knock. That's the knock,
right? Just
and again, I'm not an addict, but
it's with anything. We all have, like, struggles in life. So the message of AA, I think, can carry out to other, parts in your life. If, you have other addictions or just other faults, because most people have other faults, right?
A lot of those steps are just dealing with your issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if you didn't have an addiction, like, we've probably hurt people.
Yeah.
Making amends is probably not a bad thing to do.
Probably
you know what I mean?
not.
Like, those steps aren't all just for people that have addiction issues. I mean, obviously it's made for that, and the guy that started it was an alcoholic, but I get it. I don't know. I get that feeling. I definitely get that feeling.
Yeah.
And were you just not raised with any religion, or were you just rebelled against it? It's like,
my parents, went to church on Christmas and on Easter, and that was about it, really.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't anti-religious. They were definitely, like, believed in God.
Were they Catholic, or
they were Christian?
Okay.
Or said they believed in God,
Mm-hmm.
but talk about God was, like, not at the house.
Yeah.
We never read the Bible. We didn't pray. We didn't say grace.
Mm-hmm.
We just did, like, the holidays. So, and then I, started to be pretty, like, anti-God or whatever when I was young, because of, I think it was, like, cool or, like, trendy also for certain subcultures to be, like, upside down crosses are cool. So, I mean, that was, like, I'm sure part of it.
Punk rock.
Right? Stupid. But, yeah, I think, I don't currently go to, like, AA or NA, but the steps are still applicable in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to, like, addiction, it's really just kind of reverse engineering it. So I lost all these anchors, which were, like, friends, family, and things I like to do. So as I was recovering, I repaired the relationship with my family. started to reconnect with friends who weren't using, and then, started to do like physical activities that I love. So went back to training, and that helped me quite a bit. So I just became busy enough that I couldn't really use. I stayed in Illinois for a year, took on like 2 jobs, and just like try to rebuild my life pretty quickly. You talk about like escaping mount. It has to be like you're on fire. Well, with getting sober, it has to be like you are on fire. And
Yeah,
you need to,
you 100% are on fire.
You have to
Yeah.
use 100% effort to get out of that, because in reality, you are dying, or you will die.
And like you said, it's so easy to just call. You have a number to call, and they're willing to be there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Any drug dealer wants to get you addicted again. You're a repeat customer.
Yep.
So yeah, I think just kind of reverse engineering it, and a lot of praying, and praying that I wouldn't go back to that life. And it's crazy that my life is just so different now. You know, I don't ever have thoughts of suicide or using again. I definitely have like really hard days. Yeah. But we all do.
Yeah. One of the things that Lauren said that I really liked is she said that, I've had excuses since I've been sober to use as an excuse to go back to drinking.
Right.
She's like, so those were victories. I feel like she was trying to tell me that those were victories. Like, hey, I had an excuse here. Something terrible happened. My son, had a disability when he was born. There's so much stress. That's an easy excuse to go, when you use, it takes away the pain temporarily.
Right.
And it's a good, nice little quick temporary numbness from dealing with this shit in your life. And so I remember her saying that. I was like, saying that how much of a victory that is. And yeah, that's a huge victory. Like,
for sure.
Because it's easy as an addict too, I think, to give yourself excuses to use.
Oh, I love excuses. Any excuse to, get high was great. And I think recognizing that too, that you are a person that loves excuses and will break, from the first thing. And, I never wanted to be a weak person, and I don't think addiction made me weak, but it definitely opened up my weaknesses and showed me where I am weak as a person. But I realized that I can get strength through myself and through God. And, my worst day sober doesn't even compare to my best day getting high.
Yeah.
Even I have bad days now, it's never going to be as bad as that.
Yeah. I try to tell people, like, with Christianity, or like, some people call them baby Christians, like when you're just new at being, or you're having some sort of faith, is that like, don't think, I need you to understand, like, this isn't like the cure-all, like everything's great now. No, man, there's going to be tons of hard times in your life.
For sure.
But you can use it to help you get through it.
Yeah.
You can ask God to help you get through it. Like, how do I get through this? And trust that there's some sort of plan here, and I that's really hard for, I think, everyone, addicts or non-addicts or whatever, is to understand that, like, it's not always going to be good. And for sure, like you said, your hardest day sober has still been easier than your best day getting just high out of your mind.
Right.
And I think that's a good way to think about it, just to constantly remind yourself, like, because we always have that second talk in our head, like, no, you can get school. Like,
it might feel kind of good just to try it again, or like,
you could control, you got your life together now, it's fine. Again, I feel like that's just the devil of lies, man. The devil of lies.
It's just like, if you're on a diet and you want to eat cookies, well, I'll just eat one.
Yeah,
sure. Right. We'll give me that whole bag.
4 to a whole roll.
Absolutely. So, it goes with anything in life. We, especially me, not we, but people in general, are so quick, to give them excuses and to, break a diet or break, whatever promise you've had with yourself. So I think, addiction has made me stronger in the sense of I'm more disciplined. I'm I'm able to like stick to something for longer. I don't give up as easily. So the silver lining and all of like the negativity is it grew me as a person.
Yeah.
I just don't think I could grow that way without it. And it's weird to think like
You had to do that.
God does like funny things in your life to like make you like who you are.
Yep. Yeah, the path isn't straight.
No.
The road is not a straight road.
No, not at all.
It's not a straight road. What would you say to someone that is still in that hole, that dark hole, and they feel like there isn't hope and there's nothing, they're not feeling like there is the love, like you said,
right.
Or you feel like there's nothing there and there is no hope for sobriety?
I think it's to surrender to help from other people, surrender to the program as far as like AA or NA if you so choose to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stay forever. I went to NA as long as I needed it. And you've been doing everything wrong now, so try something different and try it with haste.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the metaphor of being on fire.
Yeah.
You are on fire. You need to
fire.
act quickly.
Yep.
You can't like continue to dance with the devil and wonder why you're still living in hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me.
I didn't know, who would do this, and I'm surprised at how many people asked me to come on. I might have a couple others.
Yeah.
I don't want to overdo it, so, maybe 1 to 2 more tops, probably. But I appreciate that you had the courage to come on. Like, I think sometimes people, it's hard to admit, that they had a hard time.
So much shame comes with it.
Yeah.
I've felt that way for a long time, so I kind of keep it like on the low.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I was able to, speak about it like comfortably, confidently, and not feel shame.
And I know some people that, I think their jobs, they don't want their jobs to know that their past was this.
Right.
Even though they're straight as an arrow now and they're like probably a great employee.
Yeah.
Jobs get weird about it, or maybe you're up for a promotion and you just don't want that out there. But I wanted to do this again to just give hope to people that are still in that hole and they feel like they just can't figure out a way to get out.
Yeah.
And hopefully they hear this and know that it is possible.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Well, thank you.
I appreciate you coming on. I don't think I kind of cried a little bit, but not too bad.
No,
so
I
it's not bad.
I got a little watery eyed. My voice was kind of shaky.
Not too bad.
Trying to pull it together.
I didn't crack. The watering eye's all right, but it's when my voice cracks and I sound like I'm a 13-year-old boy. That's just a bad look. That's a bad look.
I told Lorraine, I was like, you made a black belt cry. Like,
Oh,
how do you feel? That's pretty
Peter
cool.
too, man. Peter made me cry too. I've only done like 15 of these and I've cried like 3 times already. It's
All
weak.
right.
It's weak, but whatever. It is what it is. That's honesty. So
Cool. Well, thank
thank you. Peace.
Let me talk for just a second, help me feel that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder, either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather be the latter. Instead of getting